Hey, and welcome back to Workshop Wednesday. I'm Chelsea Bussymeyer. Thanks for joining me today in my workshop. And as promised, this week's episode is all about the steps you need to take to insert a pocket. So we are doing a rounded pocket, a scoop pocket, similar to what you would find on any pair of jeans. And last week's episode was all about how to make the pattern for this. So if you have a pair of pants and you'd like to add a pocket to it and you want to know how, then don't miss last week's episode. I'll put the link to it down in the description box if you haven't seen it. And if you already caught last week's episode, then grab your pattern, grab your pieces, and I'll show you how to put this pocket together so that it will lay really, really nicely and you can add a pocket to any garment you'd like. So let's get this pocket assembled. Here on my table, you can see the 3 pieces I need. I've got my front leg cut out twice, and each piece of the pocket cut out twice. Since this fabric has this multicolor weave to it, you can really see that I'm making these pants with a bias cut grain line to it. So they crisscross on the front leg. If you're just seeing this video and you want to know a little bit more about bias cut, specifically why your seams pucker, then hop back. A couple weeks ago, I posted a video exactly on that topic in regards to these pants. So definitely check that out. I'll put a link down in the comments so you can find it easily, all about bias cut. So I'm mentioning that because you can see here on my pockets themselves that this one here I cut out on the bias as well, because this is the back portion of my pocket. So this is going to be the continuation of my leg here, finishing it off. So I really wanted the grain line to match up. And on my inner pocket, so this is the pocket that's going to be right against the leg and create that space for the pocket itself. I've cut this one in the grain line. The reason for that is I didn't want this edge, this pocket edge, to really stretch out because it is cut on the bias. It has that kind of movement ability, but it doesn't have the elasticity that a stretchy garment that has the recoil value, or if it's made with elastan or something like that, it will go back to its original size. This would just simply stretch out from use over time. So I wanted to stabilize this edge, and instead of putting some stabilizer or interfacing in, I thought, you know what, I will just cut the pocket on the grain line, and since this fabric doesn't have any stretch to it, it will just stabilize this edge, keeping it from stretching out. So that's a little bit of the background technical bits. What we first need to do to assemble this pocket is attach this first half of pocket. So I'm going to put the sides that I want on the outside together, so right sides together. I'm actually making these pants with the wrong side out, right side in, simply because these are flannel pants, and I really like this the lines that this multicolored weave has with the different colored threads running through it. And this will mean that the softer side, the brush side, is against my leg, and the smoother side, where you can more clearly see the threads running in the fabric, will be on the outside. So that just means whatever side you want on the outside, put those sides together. So that will be correct for that piece, and this will be correct for this piece. So we're going to take these over to the sewing machine and simply stitch both of these pieces together. Now that we have the pocket attached to the front of the pant, I'm going to go ahead and snip into my seam allowance. And this is your $1 million signature tip from me today. Whenever I snip into a seam allowance, I always do the layers separately. So most often you'll just see people snipping in both layers, and that is faster for sure. But I, especially when it's a thin fabric, really can't handle when you turn it around and you can see where your seam allowance has the little notches, especially after you press it. So this way, if you just do one layer and then cut the second layer offset from the first, it's a lot smoother transition along the whole seam, so you won't get those snips kind of pressing through when you go to iron it. So now that I mentioned that, and I flip this around, ironing or pressing is our next step. So we're going to take this over to the ironing board, give it a nice pressing so that our edge is nice and sharp. And this would also be the time that you would top stitch it. So if you were making jeans or something where you wanted your rounded pocket or scoop pocket to be top stitched, then you would want to top stitch it right now before we proceed with the pocket. Otherwise, it will get a lot trickier later on. Now that we've got this edge all nicely finished, we're going to take our second piece for our pocket now. And this is why it's so helpful to have those little notches to tell you where to line up the edges, because we're just going to line up our edge right here at the notch. I'm going to put a pin in and then line up my notch right here. Once we've lined up our notches with our finished edge, then we can flip this up and check and see how our pocket alignment is. So since our pocket is cut out the same shape, ideally, our pocket will be exactly lined up all the way around. Sometimes it's not, however, and instead of shifting the pocket so that it does line up, we want to just leave it nice and smooth. So I'm also going to throw in a couple of pins here. My pocket actually aligns very nicely, and since it's flannel, it sticks together really well. So I'm just going to throw in 2. But the reason why you don't want to shift your pocket to align your edges is once you do that, then your pocket will also be uneven to the garment. So when we close it all up, your pocket may gape, or there may be a pucker in it somehow or some way, and we really don't want that. We want the garment, this front panel of the pants, to really lay nice and flat, and the pocket to hang straight and not be torqued in any which way. So I'm going to now run around the edge of my pocket to just close it up. This side seam is going to get closed in with the side seam of my pants, and the top edge is going to get closed in with the waistband. We'll tack that in place where we have our pins in a moment, but first we're just going to close the pocket, and I'm also going to just serge right around it. Since I'm going to finish it off with the overlock stitch just to keep it from fraying, I'm going to do that right away too, just so that it's, again, completed before I kind of close it in. Okay, so here we go. We've got the pocket on the back side closed up, finished so that the edge is nice and secure with the overlock stitch. And when we look at it here, it's all nicely lined up. Our waistband won't be growing because the pocket shifted out and added extra length along the top since we have that alignment there. And we know our side seam hasn't grown either because we've got our edge nicely lined up at the notch here. And our pocket will lay nice and smooth and flat under the garment as we feel over it. There's no lumps and bumps when we flip it around and lay it flat. It's also nice and smooth, and our side seam has good alignment. So when we close the side seam and catch the pocket with it, it's going to be nice and smooth and not have any bumps or puckers. I'm just going to remove these pins here that were holding the pocket together as I close that. And this piece is now ready to be added into the pair of pants. Here we go. We've got both the right and the left front leg finished and the pocket set in. If we flip it around here, we can see that the edge is nicely finished off with our serger. or overlock stitch, and it's also closed with a regular lock stitch. This just adds extra security, having both rows of stitching. You can of course just finish it off with the serger, but there's a lot of strain that goes on this seam depending on how heavy the items are in your pocket, so it's nice to have just that extra row of regular stitching on the inside. And we can also see here that the pocket is laying nice and flat. There's no lumps or bumps or twists. It's nice and flush with our side seam edge, so when we go and close the side seam, we'll easily catch the pocket with us. Same with the top. I do often just run across the very top of the pocket here, just tack it in place so I can take out my pin, since adding the waistband is one of the last things you typically do with a pair of pants. But this side edge, we will just close it in with the side seam, and ensuring that our finished edge of the pocket itself is lined up nicely with our notch. We know that our pocket hasn't caused the waistband to grow or the side seam to lengthen, and both of the pockets will be the exact same size. You wouldn't want this little section to be larger on one and smaller on the other either. They're nice and symmetrical with our notches. So these front leg panels are now ready to go, and I can proceed with sewing the rest of the pants. It's really nice to have those pockets set in before you start piecing like the back leg on or anything like that. And different pairs of pants will have you close different seams first, whether the crotch or the legs. It really doesn't matter. The key is to get that pocket set in and nicely finished off before you keep going with your pattern. Well, that wraps up this episode of Workshop Wednesday. Thanks for joining me for this pocket tutorial, and I hope you get to install more pockets in your garments and enjoy them. And I really cannot wait for these pants and to try out the bias cut flannel. This is really exciting for me. I can't wait to see how this feels in the wear. And I'm also excited to have the fuzzy side against my skin. That's the one thing with flannel, since the outer side is usually the softer side due to the fact that it's brushed like a suede there, making it a flannel. You don't get that fuzzy on the inside, but this fabric is so neat that it has really the same picture or the same look on either side, since it isn't printed but woven with these multicolor threads. And I really like just the difference between the smooth on the outside and the fuzzy on the inside for comfort, as well as the look that I get on the outside with this smoother finish. So I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget the links below if you'd like to learn how to make the pattern for this pocket, or want to find out more about bias cut. You can also hop over to my Facebook group. The link will also be below. And don't forget to sign up for my mailing list if you're interested in more content. I like to do a write-up just about every week, as well as you'll find out about all my new classes. So check that out below. There's also a free pattern when you sign up for my email list, so you won't want to miss that. And until next week, take care and happy sewing.